Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 2 of this season, coming to you today from Sebring. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, after a barn burner of a race 1 week ago at Phillip Island, we head to a very different racetrack, Sebring, on the club layout. It's a track so rarely, if ever, used that the track map that we have on our graphics is actually of the old version of this track way back in the 2000s. The club layout is only mainly used for IndyCar testing. Outside of that, doesn't see a whole lot of racing action, but we have seen it in the past in the Ray Esports world, and we have a pretty awesome Formula V race to look forward to here today on this rather intriguing racetrack.
Yeah, how's it going, Ron? Yep, this isn't one we use very often, is it? We do get on Sebring quite a bit, so there's going to be elements of this track that we've all been. This being one of them right here, one of the more difficult right-handers to get right. Got to get on the gas really early here and try to get this drag down to Tower Corner. Not really my favoriteest layout, I don't think. I'm not sure it's going to be the favorite layout of the drivers, but it's one we're going to have to master and get through here today. So I would imagine, we're going to get quite a few laps done. I believe I actually have done an FF race around here, and I may have even been in the rain, and it was a bit of a struggle, but yeah, this layout, definitely a club circuit, definitely a lot tighter than the full layout. A little bit technical, not a whole bunch of drafting, but there's a little bit. It's going to be an interesting one, Ron, for sure.
And no, I think the first ever Weekend Warriors broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, it was round number 3 of season number 3 of 2024. It was an FF race here at this track. I remember tuning into that broadcast at Hershey Park saying, I wonder how these SMB guys do a show. And then, here we are about a year and a half later. Early on in this qualifying session, though, with times already getting set on the board, do want to briefly touch before we talk about what's going on at the moment. Talk about what happened last week and some of the race winners last time out. Josh Justice got the job done in that race at Phillip Island 1 week ago, winning that race overall in the Spec 1 category. Donnie Isley walked away with the win in Spec 2. And now Alan DeGassis did cross the finish line in second overall in that race to win. However, in some post-race review with some post-race penalties added into him for some contact down to the stretch, it's actually this man, Andrew Love, able to win in his Masters debut here in the FV Weekend Warriors. So awesome stuff for Andrew. He is now currently qualified second, set to join him on the front row, though presently is Tortola Dincium. Last time at Phillip Island, he's here today and looking to impress as he holds on to the provisional pole by only 0.003 of a second. And I spoke too soon as Felix Samoas immediately jumped up to overtake him at a 117.931.
Yeah, just jumped in there. Forgot to unmute my mic. Yeah, just as I was talking there, he popped in a faster lap time. So it's going to be pretty tight around here. Not a really big loop here today, so I would imagine the times are going to be fairly tight. You're going to get a bit of a drag down that back straight there. We're actually seeing Andrew Love popping up into third here as well. Guido Marzucci down in 5th place here, the next Spec 2 driver, then Jim Brewster. So a pretty good mix of Spec 1 and Masters driver. Brian Trzynski down there in 11th with a 118.47 so far for the S2 drivers. I would expect to see a little bit more speed as we see Nate Colasio just bumping up ahead of Guido Marzucci there now. So yeah, I think it's going to be a fairly tight one here as we see Thor going off the road here. Take a look at Guido and see what kind of lines he's taking out there today. Not exactly sure how to read this one, Ron. I'm not sure. This is going to be a bit of a frenetic one, I think. We're going to have a lot of pack driving. It's going to be difficult to pass. Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting race around the club circuit.
I'll tell you what, this track is actually the source of one of my favorite iRacing combinations that I'd like to do in my own spare time. It's running around this track in the USF 2000 cars with, I think, 1 gallon as the maximum amount that you can put in for gas. So you basically have to run 2.5 laps, then come into pit lane, then do it again and again and again all throughout that race. It gets very hair-raising, very hectic. And expecting that same amount of drama here today. I will say, though, looking at the calendar that we have for Season 4 of 2025 here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors, this is maybe one of the only tracks where drafting not going to be just absolutely insane from the start through to the finish. We look at Phillip Island last time at, definitely a bit of a draft-heavy race. The Saxon Ring in 1 week's time, that's going to be a little bit of a drafter with some very flat-out sections there. Lime Rock, that is going to be a draft-heavy race, as we all know, as Nate Colasio jumps up to the provisional pole to 117.906. He jumps in front of Felix Samoas, your reigning Formula V Weekend Warriors champion. Colasio, who put in some pretty all right performances last season here in the FVs, looking to return to form and maybe even be within a whisker of contending for a championship here in Season 4.
Yeah, we're pretty early days here so far, obviously only being round 1, first round ending in just can't get the right word out there. Calamity maybe would be the right word for that one. Not sure. Chaos, possibly.
Catastrophe.
But catastrophe. There we go. Lots of K words. Lots of cat words we can use for that one. But yeah, it was definitely a pretty crazy finish at the last one there. Some penalties handed out and so on. So I'm expecting there's going to be a little bit more tenuous driving out there today after that for some of the drivers. But yeah, it only being round 2 and fireworks exploding so much in the first round, I'm expecting this to be a pretty darn good season here, as I believe this is a somewhat new driver here to the Formula V Weekend Warriors here in Ken Hado. He was actually in our system, so he's been around before, but I don't think he's been around for a little while, Ron.
Yeah, so interesting to see Hado out there on the racetrack. I know many of the non-American time zone drivers actually hammered the opportunity to have a Formula V European time zone draft party. The usual tradition in the FV Weekend Warriors is to have one on Friday nights U.S. time. It's usually at about 8 p.m. Eastern. I've gotten the opportunity to participate in some of them. However, with my disgusting broadcasting schedule, I haven't really been able to participate in them more often than I really wanted to. But the European drivers put together their own time zone. Our SMB colleague, Mr. Guido Marzucchi, was able to get all that up and rolling. So nice to see some more racers come into this series. We always have a lot of stuff going on right now, but as we're about 1 minute away from the end of this qualifying session, looking pretty all right for Nate Colacio and Felix Moas to comprise of your front row. Andrew Love currently top running of the racers in the Masters category. Antonio Reese slotted to P6 overall, P2 of the Masters competitors. Ken Hado, as we mentioned him a couple of moments ago, he's qualified in P14, right alongside your current Spec 2 pole sitter of Brian Szynski. Last time out, it was Donnie Isley getting the job done, part of the Isley family, who usually present here in the Weekend Warriors world, and nice to see him out there on the racetrack 1 week ago. That Spec 2 class going to be a rather interesting class to keep our eyes on all throughout this season for sure, about the time running out in this qualifying session. I want to thank all of you for tuning into this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today. Going to be a fun day of racing action and a lot of stuff to look forward to here on SMB week in and week out. Gives you a very good reason to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. Both the checkered flag out in this qualifying session, we'll be able to take a look at the starting grid in the not too far off future and brace ourselves for it's going to be another fantastic 30-minute race here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors, all set to begin in just a few moments time. And here is the starting grid. We have a short and pace lap, so we're gonna have to burn through this. Nate Colacio gonna start from the pole. Felix Amo is gonna join him on the front row. Tortola gonna start in third. Andrew Love will start this race in fourth alongside Guido Marzucchi right behind in P5. Antonio Reese will start in sixth. Stefan Heemskirk will start in P7. And then 96, it will be Michelle Lynn in eighth. Jim Brewster in ninth. Jörg Mani in 10th. Parvin Ladar in P11. Kurt Nunez in P12. Brian Szynski will comprise of row number 13, spot number 13, I should say. Ken Hado will join him on that 7th row. Second tries to charm. Stevie Ray will start this race in P15. Dan Szynski in P16. Josh Justice and Michael Latarula will comprise the row of their own. Justin Huffman in P19. Brian Hansen in 20th. Wayne Buttermore will start this race in 21st as my tongue gets wrapped around my teeth about 6 or 7 times. Brett Thompson will start alongside him in P22. Jason Grider will start in 23rd. Nick Tullo will start this race in 24th. And only a few more drivers left to go. Brian Hoover in 25th. Stephen Westcott in 26th. Travis Rail in P27. David McLean in P28. Brian Belansky will start this race in P29 with Lars Tyhouse rounding out your 30-car starting grid for today's race here at Sebring on this very short and very confusing club layout.
There we go. That was a speed run there of the warm-up grid for you there. So not too bad there, Ron. We have Stevie Ray actually in our presence today. We don't usually see Stevie Ray out here in the V's. Good to see him out there racing for sure. We have a pretty big event coming up tomorrow there with the 10-year anniversary of the SRF League, and going to be actually broadcasting that one to the iRacing channel tomorrow. So everybody should definitely tune in for that one. Also our usual FF race just before that as well. And I should mention actually today's sponsor of the race is me. I'm actually sponsoring today's race. So this one's on SMB. We're always happy to put these races on. Always happy to be part of this one, and couldn't be happier to sponsor today's race either. Oh, I think I caught him taking a bite there of some brekkie, possibly.
Yeah, I just noticed something on the graphics. I'm not sure if it was just different from my perspective. We would like to thank today's sponsor for the show, Joshuah Wilkie. I just noticed that there.
I got you again.
You know?
I was wondering if you were going to notice. I did that just for you, Ron.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure if I'm anal retentive or what the deal is, but I caught that out and I nearly choked on the food that I was eating. But here we go. Another race for the Formula V Weekend Warriors with a green flag out and the drivers on their way down into turn number 1. Technically, this is turn number 2 because of the weird way that iRacing marks off the turns around here. But down to Cunningham and Collier to begin this race, side by side with Nate Colascio and Felix Simoes as they head their way down to Tower Bend. And look at Tortello trying to make up some moves as well. They're nearly 3 wide, bit of overlap between all of them as they head their way through the turn, and oh so close to contact between Colascio and Tortello as they head their way down to 6.
That is about as close as you want to get there on a couple occasions on the way through there. Tortello and Nate Colascio getting ultra close, as well as to the back of Felix Simoes there in the front, but we're all looking pretty clean here so far. I'm not seeing anybody dropping down the order yet. We're pretty single filed out now. Looking pretty good. We're going to get down this first straight here, the first opportunity to get a draft going, so we're probably going to get some side-by-side racing somewhere in the pack here before we get down to this corner, and it looks like a little bit of side-by-side there. Ken Hato out in the back, pretty straightforward so far up front. Have a quick look back there. Let's see if we can sort each other out, and we're looking pretty clean. Josh Justice beside Parvinder Ladar. Nice and clean so far, and I think this is going to be a pretty big pack race here so far. We're going to break up into some packs, I think, and then we'll probably have a bunch of little mini battles going on. This one might be a little difficult in the production room to keep up with.
I will say, I think there was some drama involving the likes of Nick Tullo, Brian Hoover, and Stefan Westcott. They dropped down like a stone thrown into a pond on the first lap of that race. It was actually contact coming out of Tower Bend of turn number 5. I think Westcott was the worst for the wear in the midst of all of that, as he's now 7 seconds back of your present P28 runner Hoover, and there you can see 1 minute 45 on that first lap, so something must have gone down for the driver of the 225 car. He's run into some difficulties. Tortello still running smooth up at the front. Felix Simoes slotted in P2. Nate Colascio is in third, as Kurt Nunez also dropping down with Jason Grider, so there may have been some more drama here as we take a look at the drama at the start of this race involving Tullo and others.
Yeah, this should involve Nick Tullo here, I believe, and it looks like maybe going to be all on his own now. A little bit of netcode there, actually, if my eyes don't deceive me. They were pretty close together. They still may have made contact anyway, but that was a bit of netcode on Tullo there. Unfortunately, it looks like he took maybe Brian Hoover with him there as well. So those two definitely have a little bit of a deficit to make up now as we've made a switch for the lead here. Tortello taking the lead from Felix Simoes as we were away.
And he's holding on to the lead for now, but Felix Simoes down the inside of him as they head their way off into Cunningham Bend, and through into the race lead will go Felix Simoes, as that's a spin for Michelle Lynn, heading off into the turn after setting the fast lap of the race at a 157.6. She's now going to drop down outside the top 20. Disastrous stuff from Michelle, as let's see what happened to her down into the turn. Cunningham and Collier, the opening series of corners here on this club layout with the start-finish line right about there. It is so tough in these race cars to try and manage. You got to keep the momentum rolling. Unfortunately, there a little bit of stacking up right in front and pretty much spinning as the only thing that Michelle could do. Otherwise, it would have been a multi-car stack up. And look at Jim having to take evasive action. Jim Brewster running off into the grass to avoid making contact.
Yeah, lots of good evasive action there, especially from the likes of Jim Brewster. Quick on the hands for sure on that one. Unfortunately, yeah, it looked like not only did it stack up a bit, she also missed her brakes. I'm not sure if that was a missing brake because of that or just all because of the accordion in front of her there, but either way, that one ended up with her in the grass and unfortunately having to wait for most of the field to get by, as we're actually looking at a bit of a side-by-side battle here. Up at the front, Nate Colascio has entered the fray, almost 3 wide here with Felix Simoes. Got Andrew Love just kind of poking around in the back, having a look there, probably trying to be a little careful after the last race. He did end up taking the win, I believe, because of some penalties handed out. He's going to be looking for another win there. A lot of good showings from Andrew Love, but hard to convert for some reason. So hopefully he can convert today. We'll see how that works out. Guido Marzucci as well. Tons of falling anvils for the poor guy. So hopefully he can get a good position here today. He's definitely in position to strike here at some point, Ron. You got your mic muted?
Yeah, that I did. The true professionalism. Right as I was saying
I'm not the only one then.
Yeah, we all have our moments. It's okay. Yeah. I whacked my head too much as a child, and now I make falling anvil jokes online. I was just going to say that Guido Marzuki, I don't want to jinx him too badly here in this race, because of all the times I would want to upset a producer, if there is any at all, it certainly would not be a day before a show broadcasted onto the iRacing channel here on SMB with the 10th anniversary Weekend Warriors special tomorrow, as we've got the side-by-side racing still with Tullo and Colacio. Felix Samoa's nearly tried to make it 3 wide with a shallow exit out of the hairpin. He's going to try and keep the momentum rolling through to begin yet another lap here at Sebring. You can see very, very hectic stuff down across the line, and into turn number 1, they're going to go Tullo down the race lead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty back and forth. Like, this is one of those situations where you kind of have to take a pass. You have to be able to pass your competitor to keep this momentum up at the front here. And if the person in front of you doesn't want to let you by and they're blocking you, it's really only going to slow up the entire pack there, as we see. I'm not exactly sure who that was that just went way off the course there. Maybe Antonio Reese possibly? Or no, that might have been Andrew Love. But back to my point there. If you don't kind of drive as a good pack and allow those passes to happen up at the front or even in the middle of the pack here, that other pack's going to catch up to you real quick, and you're going to have a much bigger problem on your hands. So it's going to be that kind of race around here. It's pretty short. There's quite a few corners even in that short amount of time, and you're going to have to make sure that you sort of facilitate those passes and get these people by as quickly as you can, or that pack behind them there, I believe that's going to be Jorg Mani, Ken Hato, Jim Brewster. The likes of them are going to catch up to this pack, and it's going to make it that much harder.
It was Wayne Buttermore and Brian Belansky have both ran into some difficulties on this lap. Meatball flags in the air for the both of them, and Belansky's actually coming to the pits, so drama for the driver of the 255 as well as for the driver of the 973 car. As that could have ended in tears with Mani and Hadu so close to contact as they had their way off through turn number 11, the final turn around this racetrack, the second part of that Fangio section, as Andrew Love has run to his own difficulties. You can see the smoke up in the air. Andrew going off the track, and Guido followed him. The commentators jinxed that I was trying to avoid coming down badly, so if you'd like to be on an iRacing broadcast tomorrow, let me know.
We'll catch up here with Brian Brian Hoover quickly. He's off the road, so that was an off-road, and then we should see something here, I believe, with Belansky and himself. Yeah, and we're just going to get our braking wrong there a little bit and unfortunately punt the driver off in front. We'll see if we can't here now catch up with Guido and Andrew Love and see exactly what happened here. We got a couple off-track reports. And what do we got? Andrew Love a little bit too spicy there. Oh, and Colasio's actually lucky to get away with that one, Ron, from Andrew Love, getting a bit spicy into the back of him. Bit of an accordion happening for Guido. And unfortunately, another falling anvil for our producer friend.
Yes, so unfortunate. The stack up down into turn number 1. That's exactly what caught at Michelle earlier on in this race, and unfortunately there happens to both Guido and Andrew. It has broken up this battle up at the front quite a lot, as Felix Samoas, Tortola, and Nate Colacio running all by themselves. About a 1.5 second gap between themselves and Stefan Heemskirk occupying the final spot of that top 4 cluster of all Spec 1 racers. Then you look behind to this battle involving Jorg Mani, Ken Hadu, Jim Brewster, Parvin Ladar, and Brian Szynski at the tail end of this fight as well. Very interesting to see the 2 top racers in the Masters category and the 2 top racers in the Spec 2 class, along with your reigning Spec 2 champion, all involved in this 5-car scrap up towards the north end of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like all S1s up front there. A little bit surprising. Usually there's somebody that can kind of get up in that mix there. You know, I was just watching these 3 race here, and the likes of Jorg Mani, Ken Hato, and Jim Brewster. And if you watch closely, you'll see sort of Jorg Mani and Ken Hato taking around the same line. Of course, as soon as I say that, they go too wide. But if you look in the background, you can always see Jim Brewster cutting shapes, looking for a different line to take, looking for a way to undercut or overcut or somehow get his way in there. And that's Jim Brewster for you. He's out there racing all the time. He's always going to be looking for that racy line. He's always going to push a little bit here. And I would not be surprised if in a lap or 2 he is up in front of these 2 drivers here as they squabble with each other. A pretty good race here at in the mid-pack. And just behind that, Parvinder Ladar just waiting to kind of pounce on it. And just behind him, actually, Stevie Ray sort of lurking back there too. Somebody we don't see out here too often, but he could very easily monopolize on this as Jim Brewster goes too wide here with Jorgmani just momentarily there.
And the side-by-side racing still going on between all of these racers, duking it out for any spot that they can. Very good performance from Haddo in his Weekend Warriors Formula V debut, at least here from this season. Wasn't present for the last round of the championship at Phillip Island, but here he is in that 555 car, running in a pretty all-right spot as it stands presently. Has taken to this series like a duck to water, and we'll have to see if anybody's going to be able to throw him out of the pond. But right now, Jorgmani and Jim Brewster running right behind him as we jump back to the action up at the front with Tortolo, Felix Samoza, and Nate Colascio all duking it out. If you want a preview as to what the championship battle is potentially going to look like here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors this season, this is a pretty good view of it. You got the top three of Tolo, who won 3 straight Formula V Weekend Warriors championships. The only reason why he didn't go for a whole year in a row is because he wasn't really here throughout the summer, and Felix Samoza was able to win the championship instead. And look at Nate Colascio, he is there to pounce as well. But there was one more addition into this battle, and Stefan Heemskerk, the Dutchman behind the wheel of the number 96 machine.
Yeah, and he has been up at the front pretty much all the time. He's been part of this conversation almost every race. Last race there was a bit, I believe he was the one who got the penalty, if I'm not mistaken, Ron, with a bit of a bump there at the very end. But he's always been right there, and he's always right there these days. And it looks like, you know, maybe he's kind of found his role here and just sort of having a look behind these guys, waiting for a mistake to happen. And he can pounce on that mistake and move into a podium position here. But definitely never somebody to overlook there in Stefan Heemskerk these days. He's definitely driving very well. It's Ken Hotto in the background there as well. Like you're saying, very good, I guess, return, you would say, to the Formula V Weekend Warriors here. Doing really well in the pack just behind these guys.
Very, very good, as right there is a move from Nate Colascio and toward Tolo, as it's still going to be a side-by-side scrap right behind, with Tolo now feeling some pressure from Felix Samoza. That's the thing when it comes to racing here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. You can never say it's over until it is fully over, and this run up to the line, which is right about there, you can't really see it, it's not really marked off too well, and you can barely see the flag man on the pit entry, which is this track is bizarre. Probably in the top 10, maybe even the top 5 of the strangest tracks on the iRacing platform, and rather forgotten about as well. The run up to the line, though, here on the club layout of Sebring is just long enough whereby if you get a good exit coming out of that hairpin and the driver that you're trying to chase down gets a bad one, you could very well find yourself in a photo finish scenario heading across the line. And when we think of photo finishes here in the Weekend Warriors, Josh, who do you say is a driver that probably pops up in most of them?
Oh, geez, it's got to be Tortolo for sure. He seems to be able to just create those moments somehow. It's the whole race. You're kind of waiting for him to figure out how exactly he's going to bring it down to the wire at the end. And that just seems to be the way these Vs work, and it seems to be the way as that we're going 3 wide here with Felix Samoza being the man in the middle. He's going to back out of it. Probably wise of him to do so at that point, at that part of the track. Not only is it going to be slow if you don't, but you're also just risking catching a wheel and ending up upside down or backwards. So pretty smart of him there to back out of that one. There's still 2 wide here up at the front. You know, this isn't necessarily slow until you hit the corner. Once you hit the corner, you want to be back single file again. It doesn't look like they're going to give it up here, though, as Colascio going to try to hang it out around the outside. Going to probably pay the price for that one. Nope, I am wrong. He undercuts on the inside. Going to be able to take the lead on that one. So, yep, there we go. Yeah, that's a bit of a clinic there and exactly how that's done from Nate Colascio.
Yeah, and Colascio had a big sideways moment coming out of the hairpin 1 lap ago. These racers playing with fire, running around this racetrack, as you can see them also risking it for the biscuit or Trisca if they are feeling the low-calorie option. Coming at turn number 6, that curb on the outside. I mean, that small little patch of asphalt, not really used at all. I mean, if you're running on the club layout, that's when it's used. Otherwise, it's just an access road for people to pull off in case they have any sort of oil leak in their car. That's usually all that bit of racetrack is used for. So when you're heading off through there, it is about as patchy as my face when I was 14. So it's going to dislodge your skull from the top of your spine because it's so bumpy. And you also have that curb on the outside, which can spin you off rather quickly. It is so okay. That was Monty and Haydu coming to blows as they headed their way out of the hairpin. They keep it going in a straight line, but now going to give Jim Brewster the opportunity to go for a 2-for-1 deal as they come come across the line through the Fangio section. Monty blinking in and out. The aliens have come among us here at Sebring as Brewster going to sweep around the outside down into turn number 1. On the brakes, he's going to go. He made it work on Monty. He doesn't make it work on Haydu as they are still side by side as they careen their way out of Collier Bend into Tower Bend roundabout now. Who's going to win out in this scrap? It's still a Hornet's Nest right behind. Will it be Haydu? It will be Haydu. Brewster going to have to rethink that as they're nearly 3 wide right behind with Stevie Ray, Josh Justice, and Brian Szynski battling for some of the final spots in the top 10.
Yeah, you can see that was a pretty good run there from Jim Brewster, trying to hang it around the outside, and very good for Haydu to hang on to it after all that pressure for sure. But as I was saying earlier, Jim Brewster just waiting in the wings there for something like that to happen, pounced exactly when he needed to do so. Some pretty good stuff there out of Jim Brewster. I'm liking that driving for sure. And then behind him, because of that, kind of accordion things a little bit. Now we have a pretty big battle here between Parvinder Ladar, Josh Justice. I believe that's Brian Trzynski and Stevie Ray are going to be in a bit of a fray now as well, as we're having a bit of a blinker here from Jorg Mani there. The internet not doing quite so good. Not what you want to see in the middle of a pack like that. We should probably jump back up front here, as again we are 2 wide, almost 3 wide, with Colacio just behind Felix Simoes and Tortullo here. I don't know if these guys need to be squabbling quite like this. They have a pack of angry Vs behind them, and they are cutting shapes, and they're going to catch up to them really soon if they keep doing this.
And that is one thing that you always have to worry about in these battles, in these races. If you get lost up in the smoke and the drama, you could very much so put yourself in even worse of a situation. I mean, we take this battle, for instance, that we have on screen now. Ken Haydu, Jim Brewster, Jorg Mani, Parvinder Ladar, Stevie Ray, involved in this little cluster of cars for now. However, you look about 9/10 of a second behind Stevie, and then you find Brian Szynski, Josh Justice, Michael Lattarulo, Guido Morzuki, and Dan Szynski. So it may be a bit of a hornet's nest now, but it can get a lot worse.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I have a feeling, Ron, that it's probably gonna at some point here as well. It is definitely starting to get a little bit more spicy all around the field here. We're going 2 wide. We're going 3 wide behind there. We had Stevie beside Parvinder Ladar. Looks like he's going to take that position. Looks like Jim Brewster here is starting to fight Jorg Mani as well. You know, this is that time in the race we're just sort of past half. You start to get a little bit uncomfortable about where you are. You start thinking, you know what, I think I can get in front of that guy. And now's probably the time to do it. And it looks like everybody's kind of thinking that same thing as we're up here in the front. And the lap times, I would imagine, are just starting to fall now as we're cutting shapes around each other and trying to get past each other. You can see it looks like Ken Haydu has definitely made a little bit of time on this lead pack here. They are catching up. That can all change really quickly in a corner or two here. So we shall see how it works out. But so far, up at the front and in the mid-pack here, we got some good racing going on. This mid-pack has grown in the last couple laps, hasn't it, Ron?
Oh, that it most certainly has. This Hornet's Nest is continuing to grow. There's more bees getting into it. There's more Vs getting into it. I realized that pun right after I said it. That was absolutely atrocious. I apologize for that. But this Hornet's Nest is still growing. These racers continuing to duke it out as we get closer and closer to the end of this race as well. There's going to be more and more aggressive maneuvers. It's going to be less about, okay, how can you get this done methodically? And more so, how can you get it done and not worry about anybody else attacking you? So that basically got to be the scenario that these racers find themselves in as we get closer to the end of this race. We jump back to the battling up at the front with Simoes and Tullo duking it out for the race lead. Stefan Heemskerk playing the very patient game, slotted in fourth. Now, Heemskerk is a racer that we have seen sporadically in the past here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors world. And nice to see him out here on the racetrack once again, running in a very good spot and playing the patient game at the back end of this pack up at the front.
Yeah, and this mid-pack is starting to look even more frenetic here now. It's looking fairly orderly up at the front there. I think they've kind of figured out, okay, we need to sort of be at least somewhat orderly here, whereas in the middle pack here, things starting to look a little bit frenetic when we kind of get to mid-track there and people start getting beside each other, but we shall see how it works out here. Ken Haydu and Jorg Mani are sort of lead of the pack here. They've been able to kind of separate themselves a little bit from Jim Brewster and the rest of these guys. But up at the front here, we are side by side again, and I believe we're going to be side by side pretty much till the end of the race. The question is, where do you want to be for that last lap? on this course. I'm not exactly sure if you want to be up front, if you want to be maybe in second or third. I really don't know. Usually it's fairly simple. You know you don't want to be up front. I'm not really sure about that on this one. There is kind of some moves you can make mid-track that can actually hold you that position. So I'm not really sure exactly how this one's going to work out, but I would imagine Tortello's going to cut it to the wire as usual.
Hey, it won't be a race here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors if Tortello did give us a photo finish. That's a true sign that we are in fact racing, as that was Ken Hadu throwing a haymaker at York Monty and booted him out of the way. Jim Brewster now going to say, thank you very much, I'll take that spot. But now I gotta wonder how Hadu and Brewster are going to battle. Ken Hadu, a newcomer here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. He is a racer who keeps a tight ship here in this series, and that's what I absolutely love about it. I'm a racer who, I'm a commentator who occasionally races, and I've gotten the opportunity to race in some of the Formula V draft parties I mentioned earlier on, and I have sensed the disappointment sometimes in terms of some of the stuff I've done in those Friday night draft party sessions from Jim Brewster. So I wonder exactly how that's going to shake out now with Nate Colascio blinking in and out pretty badly as they head their way down into turn number 10, the hairpin. That's usually pretty terrifying, even more so when one of the racers that's going 3 wide is basically not even there.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for sure. He basically made the pass, the phantom pass there, and even see him do it on the inside there. He just disappeared, made the pass, and then reappeared. Not something you want to see as a competitor there at all. It's very, very difficult to predict where your competitor's about to be when he's blinking in front of you randomly. Is Stevie Ray getting it wrong there into that one a little bit too deep? Josh Justice is going to monopolize on that particular mistake there. Up in front, though, Colascio still holding on to it. I would imagine that's going to be a bit of a difficult one to take away from him there. He's not an easy guy to get past, and it's going to be even harder to get past him if he's blinking in and out all over the place. That's for sure, Ron.
Yeah, so as we now are officially in the final 10 minutes of this race, who's going to be the first to go for the overly aggressive move? You know, we talked about right at the start of this show, Josh, how we were expecting a pack race. We certainly have gone it. This battle up at the front, definitely a small pack compared to the just behemoth that is right behind, but still a lot of truth said in just these racers all overlapping each other. Not a lot of difference between all of them, and something's got to break here soon. I always talk about stages that these races tend to break out in. I feel like we're firmly in stage 2 waiting for something to go down. I think that something may have gone down as York Monty and Josh Justice both dropping down. Monty's now towed back to the pits. I think there may have been a collision down to the hairpin as Tortello and Colascio up at the front gonna swap a route once again. Thought that Tolo had it, but Colascio dives into the braking zone to 1, and he will jump his way up into that spot one more time.
Yeah, he's just a little bit later on the brakes there into that one, making sure that he's showing Tortello at this point, I want this one. I'm going to brake later than you. I'm going to take a little bit more risk than you. And with him blinking, actually hasn't blinked in a little bit, so we're looking like a pretty fair race here so far. But we probably should jump back here and have a look at exactly. It looks like maybe Parvinder Ladar was actually caught up in that as well. I am seeing a report here on my system that maybe he also got caught up in this. But let's have a quick look at what happened here, Ron.
And let's see this from Monty's perspective. That's Josh Justice 2 cars behind. Had Jim Brewster in the midst of all that. Oh no, contact being made as Monty got checked up a bit. Brewster ran into the back of him, and then Josh Justice had nothing to do there as contact was made down to the hairpin. That takes Monty out of it. That drops Justice down to P13 as they are 3 wide coming out of the hairpin. Are you kidding me? Tolo, Colascio, Samoas, and Heemskerk still duking it out. I gotta say, if I'm going to invest in any racer out of all of this, and bearing in mind if I did have money in the stock market, chances are I'd probably be homeless. Stefan Heemskerk is a driver that I'm keeping my eyes on come time for the end of this race. He's been playing the calm and patient game. He's been letting these racers duke it out in front, and I think he's been using that opportunity to learn all the plays that those racers have been throwing at each other.
Yeah, he's definitely had a front row seat for all of it here so far, that's for sure. He's been kind of just quietly hanging out there. Hasn't really tested anybody for 3rd place there. He's just kind of hanging, like you said, probably just watching, trying to maybe formulate a plan, making sure he can execute that plan as cleanly as possible as well. As we see Ken Hado in the background there, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. It is totally possible depending on how much these guys squabble here, that he ends up catching up to this pack and has a little bit of a say in who might be on the podium there as well. But up at the front here, Tortello's still holding on to it. Felix Samoa's just behind him. Nate Colasio's been holding pretty strong here as far as his internet connection goes, so we should have a pretty clean run to the end here, I think, with only a few minutes left, Ron. And again, I'm not really sure exactly where I would want to be in this pack. I don't think I would want to be out front, but this might be one of the tracks that you can get away with it.
You know, we've talked at length already in this show about how bizarre of a racetrack this is. There's certain things that he can do here that he can't really do at any other facility, and I think we've already seen that thus far in this race, and we will be seeing more of it at the very end as Felix Samoa's really up against that curb on the exit at turn number 1, still trying to hold on to that race lead for as long as he can. With these quick laps, I'm thinking that we probably have about 4 laps left of racing action here today at Sebring. Have a lap car a little bit farther up the road, I believe. Unless I'm very much mistaken, I'm trying to figure out who that car is. A little bit farther off into the distance, can't really get a number off of it. I don't believe it is Brian Belansky because his car looks quite significantly different. However, that will certainly affect how this race shakes out at the very end. A black flag in the air for Nick Tullo. My apologies. If it was a black flag for Tullo of the Tour variety, that would be very unfortunate indeed. But his father, Nick, picking up a black flag in P18. He comes down pit lane to come and serve that. But there is a move potentially on Samoa's. Now Tortello going to hold on right behind us. That's that lap car diving out of the way as they come out of the hairpin. Not sure who that is still.
David
trying
McLean.
to figure out. David McLean, thank you very much there, Josh.
No
shout out to Josh being the eyes as I just blabber my mouth on as it's a 4-pack of V's heading down into 1, 2 by 2 down into the braking zone. Tullo looking to try and get that move done and finally jump his way back up into the race lead, but Samoa's just keeping the momentum rolling out of the turn.
Yeah, I've seen him kind of use that wider line there a couple times, so instead of kind of basically just sort of relinquishing to the pressure a little bit from the outside, sort of releasing that pressure to the outside of the corner and still being able to hold on to the momentum that he needs. So that might be something you want to keep in the bank for the last lap of the race there. I've actually seen that work once or twice now. Jim Brewster pulling a similar move to actually get a pass done, but kind of looks like maybe they're going a little too quick for the corner and then boop, nope, they're the outside, and you're able to keep that line basically just by throwing a pick with the car. You can't really get around you after it, but it looks here like Tortello's going to try on the inside here again. Not really sure where I would want to be, like I continue to say here. I'm not sure I'd want to be up front. I'm wondering if maybe he's going to take the lead, or will he allow Felix Samoa's to stay in the lead? And that's going to kind of dictate whether or not. No, he's going to take the lead here. So, like you said, there's a couple more laps left. He could probably swap that in, maybe out one more time here before the end, but it's going to be sort of a game of chess there for the end here. I'm not really sure where a driver would want to be. Stefan Heemskerk looking in the back. He knows where he wants to be, that's for sure. He is firmly planted in 4th place pretty much this entire race. Having a look up front. I'm not exactly sure what I would do in his position either here, but I have a feeling he's going to pounce at some point.
There's certainly going to be a pounce. It's just a matter of when and where it'll happen. 2 black flags to mention. Kurt Nunez and Stevie Ray both picking up black flags in the latest moments of this race. But just with that sidecar taken care of, we can jump back to this action up the front and trying to hypothesize who's going to be the first to go for the lunge, who's going to be the first to go for the dive. I gotta say, Tour probably feeling quite good about his chances right now, extending that gap to nearly 0.7 of a second as they head their way off through turn number 8 there, as Samoa's ran a little bit wide out of 6th. He's now feeling the pressure from Coliseo right behind him. These two go side by side, which they are now doing. As I say that, they don't go side by side, but if they start to battle, Tour gonna be feeling very good about his chances come time for the end of this race, which is coming up very, very soon. The white flag going to be in the air this time by, so one more lap of racing action at Sebring. Guido Marzuki has picked up a black flag in the past few moments, but it is 4 cars covered by less than a second up at the front, and everything to play for to try and grab the second checkered flag of the season.
Yeah, we're definitely in the wee hours now, so it's definitely time to work it out for sure. Looks like Felix Samoa's is going to take a jump here up the inside to take the lead of the race with not too much time left here for sure, as you're saying there, Ron. I'm not exactly sure how this one is going to play out here at the front, but you know, definitely Ken Hotto in the back there is going to pick up 5th place as long as he can hold on to it there. Really good showing from him today. He was able to kind of become class of the field there in that second pack and hold on to it. Some mistakes being made behind him. He's kind of a little bit of an island by himself here, just hoping maybe that something goes wrong in front of him and he can pick up a position here, or pick up maybe even a podium. But you know, I think with the likes of the drivers we have at the front here, that's fairly unlikely. We're probably going to keep it pretty clean here. Tortello looking to the outside of Felix Samoes here. Yeah, I think he's probably going to go for it. You got Coliseo in the back. Internet connection seems to be holding really well, so we're going to have a pretty clean one. He's going to go in the grass for some reason. The banana is in the grass on the inside. He's decided that is the time and where to do it. Little bit of a head scratcher there from Coliseo. I don't think that was really ever going to work. And if it did, it would have been kind of a strange one. But yep, we are in a pack of race cars now, Ron. It is on.
And the run up to the line between Tullo and Samoes, who's going to win it at the end of this race? It's going to be Tortello in yet another photo finish. I gotta say, College Try Award goes out to Nate Coliseo, dipping nearly all four wheels off into the dirt as they headed their way down the backstretch, off into the hairpin. That was insane stuff at the end of this race. It was close between them taking the checkered flag or not, but I knew there's just little time left for them to be able to make it to the end. But Tortello gets a job done. Phone fish right behind. That was Michael Lattarulo and Kurt Nunez. Nunez finishing this race with a black flag, so that's going to convert into a rather hefty post-race penalty. So that P13 spot probably going to be given to Stevie at the end of this race, who finishes right behind him. But wow, Tortello once again proving that he is the photo finish maestro. I think the last time that we were running here on the Sebring Club Lad here on the Formula V Weekend Warriors, he won in a photo finish too. So he's a deja vu here this Saturday afternoon.
Yep, he did it again. Oh, little bit of contact there as well. I wasn't sure if they actually did make contact, but they certainly did. You know, the finish line of this place just creeps up on you. I completely forgot that the finish line was where it was there. I was like, why is Coliseo going in the grass right there? And then, well, that's why. It's the end of the race, and he's making a move for the lead. But, yep, pretty awesome ending there. And Tortello, again, just taking it by the finest of margins.
And what a race here at Sebring. We are expecting some pack racing. We certainly got it. And what a drive for all of them. Do want to touch on our class winners because we didn't really get the opportunity to touch on them too much at the very end of all this, as my voice dies there for a couple of moments. Hey, 265,000 quintillion broadcasts can catch up to you after a while. Here's your Spec 2 winner at the end of it all, Ken Hadu in the 555 machine. He gets a job done, so well done to Ken. Your Masters winner at the end of all this is set to be Jim Brewster, who won in a very close finish between himself and your reigning Spec 2 champion of Parvin Ladar. And of course, your race winner overall at the end of this race going to go to Tortello. Let's take a look, in fact, at that phone finish between Jim Brewster and Ladar.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to try to get up the inside of him here. And it ended up being pretty close, actually, through a bunch of the drivers through the field here at the end. It's just that kind of track. I think this last little rip down to the finish line kind of just promotes it. We're going to see Jim Brewster here give it a shot. Nice between him and Parvinder Ladar. Ladar actually is just going to get just in front of him, but easily taking the Masters win there for Jim Brewster. Pretty great drive out of him today as well.
Yeah, very good drive from all of these racers. I gotta say, well done. Good performances here today at Sebring. And with everybody having taken the checkered flag, I'm not sure if I want to know what sort of jumping shenanigans and chaos they're getting up to, because I know it's got to be something. And of course, with us running
off
on
the road
club
somewhere,
lane, you can see a good view of the parking lot. I think they're heading down the backstretch. If we can maybe jump to the blimp or helicopter down. Oh, there we go. They're heading down the back straightaway, the Ullman straightaway here. And we saw the full version of Sebring get used in the brand new series here to SMB, the Ferrari Road Oval Challenge, as that was a round of Formula V jousting.
Oh, there it is. Yep, I remember this now. We had a pretty good one here not long ago. I actually made a short out of it when we were crashing into everybody down here. As Michael Lattarulo picking up some speed here, hopefully looking to dive bomb somebody. Nope, I think he might be on the wrong part of track here. Potentially. Jason Grider on his lid. Wayne Buttermore is on fire and smoking. Parvinder Ladar is looking, yeah, it doesn't look like he's got any drive there in the rear. So our usual burn him down at the end here.
Let's gather around the campfire and sing our campfire song. Bang! There goes Andrew Love into the side of... That's not Brian Szynski, that's Wayne Buttermore. See, the rhythm of the song was going strong. Oh, is that Stefan Heemskerk monster trucking off the side of, I think that's Brian Belansky's car. He ends up on his lid. Yeah, there you can see that's, oh boy, I'm not really sure. Wait, considering that we've done these shows for like a year together, Josh, I think we run out of the superlatives to try and explain what in the world we see at the end of this. These racers, it's like a demolition derby at the end of it. I would love to see a Formula V demolition derby at the end.
Yeah, we definitely should do a figure 8 race one of these days for sure. Maybe on week 13 with the V's or something. But I agree, we've watched them burn it down so much. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. They're just smacking each other around. You never know. Sometimes better than others, too. I like the jumps, the ones when we can find a good jump.
I'm trying to think of what were some of the good jumps. I was actually looking back on some of the shorts posted onto the SMB channel, which, funnily enough, I think there was a new one posted as we went live with the show about 18 minutes ago. So you can check that out after this broadcast is said and done. But it was the other one of XSLR last season, running at it was the Atlanta Rallycross track, and everybody hitting that insane jump that they have there, and the hysterical laugh coming out of you and Adam Thompson's mouth at the end of all that was absolutely glorious. But I think we'll take a look at the results at the end of this second round of this Formula V Weekend Warrior season. Let you know that it's once again Tortola winning in a photo finish. Where have I seen this before? It's 41 thousandths of a second between himself and Felix Samoas at the very end of this race. Nate Coliseo going to walk away with a P3. Stefan Heemskerk finishes in fourth. Ken Haydu wins in the Spec 2 category, finishing this race in fifth. Parvin Ladar will be classed in P6 in front of Jim Brewster, your Masters winner, in seventh. Dan Szynski will be classed in eighth. Guido Marzuki with a nice comeback drive will finish in ninth, with Josh Justice rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, and then in 11th place, we have Andrew Love, our second Masters driver there in 11th. Michael Lattarulo in 12th. Stevie Ray showing up for a V-Race there in 13th. Not a bad one. A little bit of a falling anvil at the end there. He's doing a little better until that one. Jason Grider in 14th. In 15th, we have Justin Huffman. In 16th, Stefan Westcott. In 17th, Kurt Nunez. In 18th, Nick Tullo. And if we can advance the page a little here, Wayne Buttermore in 12th. And David McLean in 20th.
And then looking through the rest of the drivers that we have classed in the end of this race, it's Brett Thompson in 21st, Brian Hoover in 22nd, Brian Belansky in 23rd, Brian Szynski in 24th. That was 3 Brians in a row. I think in my entire broadcasting career, I've never had that go on. If you're
Brian
26 instead of P25, it would have been 4 in a row. As Brian Hansen finished this race in 26th. We're racing in the Brian series here in 2025. Antonio Reese is classed in P27. Michelle Lynn is classed in P28. Only 2 more racers classified: Travis Rail and Lars Tyhouse. Rail with a retirement early on, and Lars Tyhouse did not take the start. So that's how it all shakes out at the end of this second round of the championship. Got one driver looking to have a chat with us up there in the interview waiting area. So I'll give Josh a little bit of time to get the graphics squared away so we can have a chat with our race winner in the Masters category at the end of this race. Series admin and all-around very nice guy, Jim Brewster, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Jim, welcome in. You're the only person up there in the interview waiting area. Are snack options not that good anymore here at SMB?
I believe you might have seen it on screen. It was a contentious race. Is that a good term?
Yeah,
there were some angers. Now I'm here to apologize to Jorg Mani. I took him out. I kept letting him pass because he probably was not very happy with Mr. Ken Haydo, who is not doing anything terribly wrong, just the irritating kind of thing. And so I was just assuming Jorg and him eventually were going to take each other off. So I apologize to Jorg, but I think maybe Ken got extra brakes into the hairpin. That's because all of a sudden Jorg was stopping very, very short and I couldn't get around him. So I apologize for that. I'm glad to be back. I enjoyed my week off. Me and Tam were together. She was here for 18 days from far, far, far away, and we watched the race last week and thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a contentious race, and I got my bets wrong. 3 people got 0x. Tor, Stefan Hemskirk, and Dan Szynski. I bet that there would be none. Of course, somebody else bet that there would be more 13Xs than there were 0. And I see a 14, a 13, a 16. Yep. And anyway, so yes, there were a lot of people that went to the pits for penalties. I don't know if you guys were catching that, but I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people with over 13 X's. So
yeah, we were keeping. Honestly, this track, I think the best way to describe it is bizarre. There's really nothing like the Sebring Club layout. It's usually used by IndyCar for street course testing,
which is hard to believe. Very hard to believe. As sketchy as the V's are, because the V's are constantly bouncing. They're bouncing from. You're never in control. I mean, and that's why following nose to tail is really tough, because you're never under control. So, and that guy's not ever in control, and the guy behind you is not under control. You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, I think the best way I could probably describe it with these Formula Vs, the suspension in a Formula V is about as sophisticated as my commentary, which is to say, it's not very sophisticated at all. Super rough ride here.
No, the Sebring surface is less sophisticated than a V suspension. No, it's just,
that works too.
It's an antique junk track. Anyway, anyway, it was fun though. We had a good session last night. We had a great turnout today. We even had Justin Huffman from the Wednesday night crew jumped in. Stevie Ray took a day off, and anyway, great time to get everybody together. But I'm not sure there'll be unhappy campers maybe after today. I think there'll be a whole list of them.
Yeah, potentially. It's racing. Everybody is always going to be upset. I will say though, in reference to the Friday night draft party, Jim, I've been saying this all throughout the summer. My regular Friday night broadcasting commitment is going to be ending at the end of October once the NASCAR season comes to a conclusion. So come time for November, I think I may go out and try and embarrass myself a few more times in a Formula V.
Yeah. Nice. Hey, I think you need to walk that last statement back. In Weekend Warriors, I don't feel that at the end of the race most people have grievances. I really don't feel it. I really think on most races, pretty much everybody's happy. There might have been a couple little Mickey Mouse things here and there. Today, I think this was a very unique occurrence in Weekend Warriors racing. To the credit of all this crew, and I mean, I've said it every week. These guys are great to race with.
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic. The community that we've got here in the Weekend Warriors is absolutely incredible, and looking forward to seeing the action at the Saxon Ring next time out. That's going to be another very interesting race to look forward to in 1 week's time.
Yeah, lots of drafting. I was really surprised how well the track works. Well, the V's, it's magical with the Ford. It's just you're just laughing the whole lap in Formula Ford, and the V isn't far behind it. It's tons of drafting, tons of craziness. So I don't know if you guys looked at the schedule. I asked Michelle to pick the rain races, and we picked Achterschleben, which I put as light rain because it has a very nasty puddle right in the first kink, and then she picked Lebanon, and we're going to have that as moderate rain. So that's our rain excitement. The rest of the season will be sunny and clear like I like to have it, so we can actually see the brake markers and apexes.
We'll be able to see clearly now because the rain will be gone, at least for some of the races.
Two weeks. We're going to have it 2 weeks. It's like week 7 and 10. And I made sure Brands Hatch, the season final, is dry because we don't, who needs a season final to wrap up points with extra rain. So by the way, I'm still shaking in my boots. That was an exciting race, but I'm shaking in my boots because my best buddy, Andrew Love, is now a master. So I can no longer be friendly. I just, have to fight. And Andrew is stinking fast nowadays, and a lot of days I'm just trying to hang on to his coattails. So it's going to be a rough one. Like I said, now I'm going to have to be sending gifts and travel arrangements for his grandchildren instead of Michelle.
Yeah, there we go. That'll have to be the way that things shake out in the upcoming seasons. I remember that from a couple.
Or maybe I can just call him and Will can guilt him. It's like, hasn't it been like 10 days since you saw them?
I'm trying to remember what I said on a show last night on the other Friday broadcasting commitment that I referenced a few moments ago. I think I made some sort of crack after I said some random racing history thing. I think I said something to the effect of, I can recite that from my memory, but I can't remember my nephew's name at the moment. So I have no ground to stand on when it comes to that. But Jim, thank you for joining us here in the booth. We'll let you give the thanks and shout outs.
Thanks, guys. Everything. Hi, Tam. She's home now. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the race today. I'm sure she will within the next 12 hours or so. I hope she got to watch live. Very good to hear you guys. You know how much I think of you guys. You guys are the best. I love to post your shows on my Facebook feed, so as much of the world can see them as possible. So anyway, see you next week, guys.
Yeah, we will certainly see you at the Saxon Ring next time out, Jim. Thanks for joining us in the booth, and looking forward to seeing you there in Germany next time out.
Yes, sir.
And that right there was Jim Bruce, our Masters winner at the end of this race. And it looks like that's the only driver who wants to have a chat with us at the end of this broadcast. Josh, once we get this taken care of, we may need to go off on a snack run before we head off to the Saxon Ring for the next race.
Yeah, it looks like perhaps we need to leave our door a little more open, waft a little bit of those cookies down the hallway or something. But, Tor's been up here so often, I feel like I know him anyways at this point. But, no, it's always good to talk to the drivers for sure. And obviously our door is always open for them, so make sure you do come in here. But, we do have a little bit of housekeeping to do here. There are some upcoming shows coming up here. We do have a new graphic. Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, let's look at this absolutely awesome graphic that we have here for the upcoming broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Tomorrow, got the Weekend Warriors doubleheader. We're going to be back here at Sebring for the Formula Fords, but later on that afternoon, we'll have the action from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors 10-year anniversary special. That'll be broadcast on the iRacing Esports network, same time as the usual Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford races at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. Later on that afternoon, though, later on that evening, I should say, business as usual with XSLR running the final race for the ARCA cars. Man, time flies when you're having fun. That'll be at Talladega, so going to have some nice super speedway action to take an eye out for there. This upcoming week, though, we've got the action from the latest round of the American Muscle Series. That'll be on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. 45 minutes after the start of that show, we've got Sim Racers Group F4 action at the Hungaro Ring, and then the day after, we've got SRG F3 action at Interlagos. And of course, next week here for the Formula V Weekend Warriors, we will be running at Saxon Ring. And to keep you entertained in between these broadcasts, we've also got a whole lot of YouTube shorts here. One went live as we were on the show, and also some full-length videos potentially coming out of the not-too-far-off future here on Slow Motion Broadcasting as well. So it gives you a very good reason to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, as we're now fully underway for Season 4 of 2025. But as for this broadcast here for week number 2 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Sebring, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.